Robert, did we miss the flying unicorn? The
I don't know
unicorn
where it
snack.
went this time.
I was
I think
waiting
it's
for
in the Ukraine.
that. It's in Ukraine. Welcome, 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 everyone, to another adventure into comedy. I'm joined by Montesaurus Dean Rex, Bruce the Don MacDonald, and Melissa Hocking Hughes. We are here to have a night of comedical, comical interaction, to take the piss, be serious, and at the same time be funny and be pokey. This is a time for everyone to come on in and just relax. Monty, Melissa, Bruce, how's it going today?
Well, good morning, greetings.
All good here.
What goes on in the rainforest?
Oh, a little bit of rain today, actually.
What kind of animal is that in the background over there? Is that a bird up there? A cat?
Oh, that's one of the kittens, yeah.
Yeah. Montesaurus, where are you?
I was waiting for permission to be seen and heard. Bloody Zoom. See, even the Skype gods don't like me on this platform.
So what is going on in the south of Australia?
Oh, it's raining. So I think the theme today, everywhere it's raining. So
it's kind of like biblical rain going on there.
Well, yeah, the weather people, because I can't say meteorology. They came up with it's a rain bomb.
Yes,
yeah, that's the term they're using, a rain bomb.
Yeah, here we call it bomb cyclone.
I just call it, raining like the bejesus, and we've had just untold flooding and unbelievable situations of people being cut off and no one's getting anything. And in this very rich country, there's a lot of people really struggling.
Yeah, I'm not saying there's a lot of rain, but my next door neighbor, Noah, is building a boat. and because they're an SJW, it's not 2 of everything, it's 57 of everything.
Yes, 57 of everything, exactly.
Yeah. There's an idea. The Noah flood story is detrimental to. It's not woke enough. Would Noah let trans people on to the ark?
No. No, actually, he wouldn't.
I loved your meme, Mont, last week on various social media that it all goes to, all of your memes to. But the meme where it was the UN meeting, and does anyone have anything to say?
I'm trans.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. I was impressed with my other one, where a chicken born on a farm in the West Ukraine. Sorry, I had a Biden moment. I'd like to say that I stand with the Uranian people in this moment of time, in this time of terribleness. And a chicken born on a farm in West Ukraine has pecked to death 13 Russian troops and has clucked all the way through the night to upset the invaders. And this morning gave his life so his comrades could have a meal. This hero is only known as the Chicken of Kiev.
The Chicken of Kiev.
Yeah.
May it ever be embroiled into chicken.
And if I can step into, oh my God, you people are fucking stupid. There is pressure that supermarkets change Chicken Kiev to Chicken Kiev. Because apparently we have to say it like the local reference now. It's with a Y and Keith, whatever. So isn't that the guitarist from the Rolling Stones? Keith.
That's the dust.
Keith, go ahead.
That's the dust that gathers at the bottom of your grinder, Monty.
Yes, that is exactly. If you're trimming plants, the stuff that's super sticky coming off when you're on your scissor.
Kiff, right? Yeah. Which is also a character from Futurama, and that's coming back. Fucking yay!
So the rain.
You're stunned from this information.
Yes, this level of rain and lack of response is what we were before the show. We were talking like this is Australia's version of Katrina, and our government took like days to figure out what to do and weeks to implement something, and people had nothing. Do you think that's what's going to happen there? Complete bumbling idiocy.
Yeah, for about a week now.
Same as Katrina, where there is just an enormous amount of rampant disease, bacteria, everything building. Of course, like Katrina, all the sewage, everything's gone berserk, all the water's contaminated. There's no food supply, there's nothing going on. And so it's so sorry, I just saw the picture. So yeah, we're seeing, and with it too, I'm not sure if this happened with Katrina. It probably did. It happened with the Boxing Day tsunami over in Thailand and everything as well. But there's an awful lot of animals that have perished in the floods, which were so high, so rapid that they're in the tops of trees and everything. So you've got an enormous amount of that rotting dead flesh in the air as well, which unfortunately
is creating the bloat flies.
Not just that. I mean, inhaling that stuff's not good for you. So
yeah, but the bloat flies, they bring sickness to everything else that they bite.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we're Australian, Andrew. We totally understand about blowflies. What you're saying is it's gotten worse.
Yeah, so, it's gotten 10 times worse. That's what spreads the sicknesses. Yeah.
Have you seen the Great Australian Wave?
Yes.
Yeah, that's us.
Fly. These often sitting on my balcony on a Sunday afternoon, enjoying the moments. You can hear the gentle call of a fellow Australian saying, "Oh, these fucking flies!" So,
and usually, the bastard just landed him a beer. There's always that one too.
So, yeah. Oh, will you fuck off? Yeah. So yeah, we have flies this side. March flies that actually collect money for protection. That's how big they are.
They're their own fly mafia.
Yeah. Little bastards. But,
I bet you they're based out of Ukraine.
Well, they do wear tracksuits and have gold chains and sort of a golf hat. So it's kind of weird. And their accent's a bit odd. Louis the Fly is actually Ukrainian.
That would make sense.
Sorry, local reference, Andrew. Yeah. I think Louis the Fly is actually worldwide, or if not, people should.
Global?
I don't know. That's what.
I don't know if Louis. I don't know.
So Melissa, you were in the military, and so you have a lot of understanding. How many military bases do you think were in that area?
Oh, up north in the
where it got hit, in and around north and south of Byron Bay.
Most of your army and military bases are north of the country because of the shape of the continent. Yeah. If Australia is going to be assaulted by anything via water, via air, it's a lot more economical for them to hit the north of the continent rather than the south. So most of the army bases are up the east coast and across over to kind of the centre of Australia at the top there. And so there's an enormous amount of military and everything going on up there. The fact that they're just not in there is bizarre. The fact that no one has been sent in, or next to no one, emergency services have completely failed, and it's truly bizarre. There's really no talk of governmental support or stepping in or anything, and it's atrocious. So the good side of it is you're seeing community come together again. I know I prattled on about this last time I was on, but you're actually seeing the locals just pulling out whatever they can. They're making all sorts of makeshift ways of transporting food across the water to the people that are starving, or across the various crevasses that have been made by it, just to get basic water and supplies. They've done desperate things to get pregnant women out that have gone into labour. They're just doing the most amazing stuff. But to give you an idea of how tall the water was, a family that I know, there were 7 adults and a 2-year-old child. They were up on their rooftop for about 9 hours before the rescue boat could come, and they were on the rooftop of effectively a 3rd floor. They're actually, that's how high the water was. When the boat pulled up, it pulled up to the gutter of the roof.
Yeah, there's a photo of
that's like 30, 35 feet.
Yeah, like in Lismore. Did you see the photo of Lismore? They have a shot of McDonald's before the flood, and a shot of the McDonald's now. They have those big signs so you can see it from the highway. So your 3-year-old going, McDonald's, it is that close to the top of the word McDonald's. The entire restaurant, giggle, is underwater. Like Lismore is Lismore is now Atlantis.
Yeah. So did Byron Bay get hit also?
Yeah, everything has been. And so it's definitely like, there's no doubt this is all to do with climate change and everything. We've watched the East Coast of Australia over the past 5 years just taking a battering from
this is the global
there you go. There's the image.
This is the global redistribution of water.
You also have
and that is flowing fast.
Yeah.
You also have the interference of government, where because man-made climate change, we're going to have droughts and everything else like that. So they didn't build dams and prepare for flooding, and that's what's made everything worse. You also have, I think it's the Queensland government, selling water to the Chinese, who are damming it all at the top of or in mid Queensland, and that's fucking up all of the Marling-Darling Basin, which is the river system of the East Coast that goes all the way through New South Wales, Victoria, and comes out in South Australia. Because if you remember, 2-3 years ago, Melissa, the Darling River was just little puddles, and there was hundreds of fish slowly dying. And if you actually do any investigate, I think Friendly Geordies did it. A whole hour thing on it, and most of it is man-made because they're blocking the water from flowing up in Queensland, and the Chinese own, they've got the mass dams and water planes, and the rest of it is not getting through. And we are one of the driest countries on the world, so we kind of need the fucking water. And so I think Mother Nature's helping us out by dumping. I think Brisbane got half its rainfall for a year in a weekend.
And I just wanted to say to Santo in the chat room, I'm really sorry to hear about your daughter's house in Brisbane. That's horrible to hear. These are major cities that are being hit as well. Brisbane, Sydney's also had appalling floods. The Gold Coast, which is just south of Brisbane in Queensland, have had appalling floods. But similarly to what's happened to Santo's daughter's house, I have a friend that's just, she owns multiple cafes and a catering business all over Brisbane and the Gold Coast. Most of that has had to be shut down because the staff can't get there or are flooded in, or luckily none of them have been damaged. She actually left her home up in the hinterland in the Gold Coast to come down because they were worried about not being able to get to the businesses and help everyone. When she went back to her house, the entire house has just, house had just been renovated and the whole thing has collapsed. The ceiling's collapsed in. And here's the really nice clincher. A lot of these places are not being insured, or the insurance companies are announcing that they don't actually cover this.
Is it because it's an act of God?
Well, no, the act of God are usually what you're insuring for. Let's call it now. And there's been enough disaster around the world that insurance companies have had to bite that. But it's the fact that the insurance companies are pulling out that they don't cover that this amount of rain actually caused the roof to collapse or the ceiling to come in or the roof failed and the houses, it is, as Santos just said, it's all in the fine print. Read it, seriously do so.
Right. But they're also trying to force federal response to pay for the flood insurance,
which are not responding at all. There is nothing.
Yeah.
And in the meantime, all of these businesses that have tried and successfully managed to survive all this stupid bloody COVID pandemic economy crap over the last 2 years are probably going to be pushed under now from this.
So this is what day 6 of this going on now?
I think it is. It'd be around that, wouldn't it? We've only just got the rain here. It'd be about a week, I think.
Yeah, and weirdly enough, our weather patterns usually they swing out from the South Pole, so it sweeps across from Perth to Adelaide to Melbourne. But this one actually went down the East Coast.
Very strange.
And I saw a screenshot of the weather radar, and there was 2 storms over Brisbane and Sydney. It didn't look suspicious, but that's fucking weird.
No, it was someone showed that. That was doctored. I saw that too.
No.
Yeah, that was crap. The weather system went down the whole East Coast there. But it was good on that. I don't mind if you got a conspiracy as long as you're talking truth behind it. Come on.
Well, yeah, that's the point. Yeah.
So that entire area that's been hit, there's only a handful of major highways that connect them all, and a handful of railways. So pretty much all the highways and all the railroads are completely unusable for hundreds of kilometers. That's why the rescue response can't happen. Where are the big trucks going to go that aren't going to sink into the ground? Nowhere.
The distribution channels are complete, and this is where the weakness lies. I mean, really, this is a weakness in privileged society over the world. The weakness lies in distribution for us. That's where society really is over the barrel, and it's and you're seeing this again. We've seen this in various situations, particularly like the whole COVID thing. Everyone's sick, no one's allowed to go work because the government's made all these stupid mandates, all of that stuff. We saw distribution fail. in this particularly, we're seeing it's failing a beauty at the hands of Mother Nature and whatever's
well, I can even take the distribution of water because of the interference of man by government. They weren't prepared for the moving of all this water, and I do find it fascinating. Like the Europeans have been in Australia for nearly 250 years. And like, 2 years ago, everyone was on fire. Now they're underwater. But the response is like, oh, how did this happen? Like, no offense to people living in Brisbane, but it's built on something called an overflow. Now we know the English language. What does overflow mean? And that's
floodplain.
Was it 10 years ago that Brisbane had all those floods, like once in a century floods? And it's like, oh, how did this happen? Oh, this is terrible. This is climate change. No, you built the fucking city on an overflow. This happens once every 100 years. They did say that this could be a 500 once in a 500-year storm. And I'm like, did you talk to the Aboriginals about that? Because white people haven't been here that long.
Yeah, speak to them. They've been here for 90,000 years, and they'll have some input. But,
but where did they get their degree from?
It's the wettest day on record. The records that started in 1880.
Yes.
It's a blink in the eye in weather.
So, Bruce, the Don MacDonald, what are you doing back there?
I'm just listening to all of this fascinating stuff about
You got your tracksuit and your hat going?
It lives on a mountain, so you fuck the water.
Well, this is just a shirt, not a tracksuit. It's absolutely spellbinding, man. It's like
yes, like 1 week ago or 2 weeks ago today, we were talking about Canada and Trudeau.
Yeah,
Joe Rogan.
Like it is amazing the movement of consciousness and attention in such a short period of time. It's all fight or flight now. It's all fight or flight.
Well, have you noticed that
like all misdirect to me?
Yeah, well, the reaction
to horribly suspicious.
Well, everything Russian is being removed from the culture and everything else like that. In Italy, and I'm going to get this wrong because I have for 7 times, they've removed the author Dostoevsky because he's a Russian.
But
even though he went to a gulag and wrote against the Soviet Union, but he's Russian, so remove that. Have you seen all these idiots in bottle shops? Oh, we're removing Russian vodka. Take that, Vladimir. It's like, you paid the wholesaler. That's your vodka. You're not hurting the fucking.
No, look,
realize most of the vodka is not imported.
In Australia, there's a fantastic Russian population, and I've got terrific friends that are Russian here in Australia. The boycotting of anything Russian is about as stupid as the hatred towards anyone Chinese when COVID came out. It's, what the hell are you thinking?
That's where the hypocrisy is, because the mainstream defended you can't say it's Chinese, you're racist, but now it's Russian, you can do exactly the same thing, and it's encouraged.
But this is nationalistic programming coming out in people. Mm-hmm. That is embedded into generations of DNA now.
Well, so blaming
they have a patriot class and they have a patriot class and a national class who will always believe what the government or the scientists tell them to believe.
Yeah. So that's one thing that I find about the floods as well. It's pushing the anti-mandate, anti-mask movement, because it's like there's towns without water. Why do we need to worry about a fucking mask? And a lot of the people in healthcare and military and rescue services, because of the mandates, they got fired and weren't allowed to work. And so that's why have you noticed the response? Like here in Victoria, was it Code Brown? The medical system freaked out because there was a wave of Omicron and there was more whatever. But the thing is, only a month earlier, you got rid of a third of your workers. And so there's no connection. Like the system's buckling. We got a third.
Appropriate coloured code.
Yeah. Everything went brown.
More aptly coded.
Yeah. But it's just
recently they just changed it in our state, which is the last state to change anything because our premier's a dick. But you don't have to wear masks in a lot of places anyway. I'll bring up. Thanks, Santa. I'm going to talk about the petrol price. But
yeah, we'll get there. In our local supermarkets, people working at the supermarket have to wear a mask. I don't if I walk in there. And the weird thing is, once the person
mask on,
but if you're not working, but when you stop working, when you finish your shift, you can take your mask off and walk around the same place.
Well, I went to the old Costco the other day. I have a large family. Makes sense to me, okay? But they eat a lot. And so I went to Costco the other day. I don't have to wear a mask anymore when I go in. All the workers do, and I apologise to them for that. Sorry, you have to wear that thing. As I walked in, said hi to everyone, and I was walking through, and when I first walked in as it opened at like 10 a.m. in the morning, and the crowd wasn't too big. Nobody had masks on. Within about 15 minutes, the crowd built up, and people were coming in wearing masks. They don't have to anymore. But, people are choosing to. That's their choice. So I played a little social experiment where I trotted around chatting to everyone and smiling and everything, and because I don't have a mask on. And I watched that group mentality, the pack mentality of, oh, my God, we still have to wear masks. And everyone started pulling their masks out and slapping them on because everyone else was wearing them. By the time I left about, 30 minutes later, I was one of very few people that didn't have a mask on. That whole follow the lemming, was just an amazing thing to observe in that space. At one stage, I actually looked up on the phone. What, has it changed again? Do we have to slap these back on? Because everyone had a bloody mask on. And as I went out the checkout, fabulous checkout lady who I know, and so when I was chatting to her, she had a mask on and she said, it's so nice to see your face. And I said to her, everyone else has got their bloody mask on. And she said, I know. She said, it happens every morning. She said, for the first 45 minutes, you see people not wearing masks, and then everyone starts to doubt it and everyone starts to follow everyone. But in the queue that I was in at Costco with this lady, anyone that didn't have a mask came in our queue. It was just this one maskless queue of people going through.
They self-segregated.
Well, we still do have the vaccine passports thing. Like Melissa can go into a bar, but I can't join her because I haven't got my digital ID. We still have that.
I went to an outdoor event the other day, last Sunday. I had to go to this huge garden party with the kids' grandma. And it was an outdoor event. It was sunny and bright and a huge crowd there. And as I was walking in, the gate said, do you have your vaccine passport? And I said, it's an outdoor event. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
And she's going, yeah, well, we just have to keep numbers. So where are you recording them? I haven't got a ticket. No one's got a ticket. It's a community event. And she's going, yeah, we just need to check it. Why? What are you going to do if I don't show it to you and it's bolt past? Like, seriously. And I said, 3 kids have just run in. Are you going to stop there?
Interesting enough.
It's getting really nervous. And I said, I'm really sorry, but you've got one of the shittiest jobs I've seen.
The government's forcing. Yeah, because if they don't comply, the government fines them $100,000. So they're forcing everyone to do it. A Victorian MP was attacked, said something, they mentioned something about Victoria, and someone responded to the tweet saying, yeah, but we still live in a state with papers, please. And she responded, how dare you equate what's happening in Victoria to the Nazis and everything else like that. And if you need to see, if you look up in the dictionary of what ratio means, it's a photo of that. There was 18 likes and 3,000 tweets underneath it. That she got hammered because it's like, how can you not equate? Like, for me to go into certain venues, I have to prove that I've got a vaccine, which is actually a treatment that doesn't work.
No, it's not. More and more countries around the world are recognising these jabs, these bloody whatever infusions that they are, as a treatment rather than as a vaccine now, which is great. Australia's always last to come on board with that crap, but they're just look, Santo mentioned before the price of petrol in Australia. Now, this is a fun this is fun because as we are all well aware, a war has broken out. I guess inverted commas, I'll get back to that. A war's broken out on the absolute farthest point of the planet away from Australia. But that actually apparently justified the price of petrol in Australia going to, I think, an all-time high. It is outrageously high at the moment to buy petrol.
Over $2 a litre.
All because the war's broken out.
Yeah, and also someone shared a photo of they filled up their car in England, and at that petrol stop at that time, it was a £1.77 for a litre. Now, if you know so if you know the conversion between pounds and Australian, it's usually 50%. So that's nearly $4 a litre. Now, Andrew, can you step in and do your maths about how that would work?
2 liters to a gallon.
Yeah, and you're over $5 American for a gallon now, aren't you?
No. We're $3.50. So that is for the highest price of the gas, not because we have 3 grades of gas here: low, medium, high, and that's the high grade.
Yeah, I probably saw a photo from California where it's just insane.
Well, California in the last gas crisis in 2012, whatever it was, back then, it was $7 a gallon. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's for regular. That was for regular. Yeah, it was like $6.89.
Actually, I saw I forget who puts it out because I don't want to give any energy to the mainstream media, but they were trying to deflect the whole thing of what's happening in Ukraine is why that there's inflation in the United States and everything's going up. And anyone who's got a brain's like, it's been going up for 12 months. It's not the Ukrainian, it's, dare I say, Biden.
Yeah, because of these sanctions, we know that all these sanctions have been put in place. So a lot of the product is still in the country.
Mm-hmm.
You're not going to convince me.
Yeah, don't buy the vodka. You'll hurt Russia. Well, you're giving 30% of their profits to Russia. You're still buying Russian oil. And this is because of Biden, because he stopped the Keystone pipeline on the first day when he got into office. Like, Trump actually made the United States independent for energy for the first time since 1957 or something. And Biden's like, we have to overturn everything Trump's done. In the State of the Union, Biden said, we have to lower the price of insulin. It's way too high. Well, that's true. However, Trump did that when he was president. And in the first week that Biden came in, he got rid of it. So the prices went up 700%. So Biden's complaining about something that he created.
Yeah.
Eric in the chat room just tried to open a massive can of worms. Sarah's answering about why there is an alternative fuel source, and we could do a whole show on that. Well, everyone in the chat room sharing their prices. I see you, and I fully complain with you. This is outrageous.
So it's so outrageous that they're not doing anything about it, because they've reached a point where whenever there's a scandal, they just pretend it doesn't exist and move on until they have several scandals always hanging around in the background.
Yeah,
all the big government organizations in the American, from EPA to forestry, they all have mega lawsuits in the background. They're being held up by the courts, and if people found out about what was going on there, they'd flip their lids. Okay.
I know someone in Germany, and he's mentioned that they've actually cut off the energy from Russia because, giving the old good fight. The problem is their energy prices are soaring now. Like, it's going to be unbelievably crushing. And this is where usually when I mention that, Bruce steps in and says it seems that's part of the reset, the Great Reset story. I don't know if it's true or not, but it seems to be happening naturally, where they're going to try and make the cost of living so much more. And it's classic problem, reaction, solution. They create the problem. They're not getting their reaction though. And so we ignore their solution because, Klaus Anal Schwab, who looks like a Bond villain, has come out and, you own nothing and you'll like it. It's like, it sounds like a threat. It's not really a.
So Schwab purged Vladimir Putin off of the World Economic Forum website.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm probably because that's probably narrative, not actually a choice.
These guys are we're wiping you out of history, Putin.
Yeah. Well, George Soros is actually supporting Ukraine. So if you know your New World Order theories, it's like, wait, Soros is on the side of the Ukraine.
I think he's a Rothschild now.
Yeah.
The Rothschilds have owned every war since Napoleon.
Well, you know what's the best way of winning a war? You fund both sides.
That's right.
Yeah.
And so I want to get back to the old, good old courts, things getting held up in the courts. One of my favourite, hang on, something's coming in. Sorry. One of my favourite articles that I read in the past week was about how in the international courts, and if you're on the last show, you heard Andrew and I talk about the fact that the international courts, well and good in its place. It's very good at seeing when corruption or something has been breached, but there is no real enforcement.
There is no enforcement there, yeah. And that has been the issue with all of the international courts since their founding, is who's going to handle enforcement and who's going to handle the actual jail time and the enforcement of that with the extradition orders and the wait.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Very flawed. However, I do love the international court's reaction to what's happening in the Ukraine, and the lead prosecutor in the national court announced that he was so disgusted by what's happening in Ukraine that he has ordered an urgent investigation to crimes against humanity in Ukraine since 2014.
Well,
So,
interesting.
I guarantee atrocities have been done. That's the nature of war. But there are some things that are completely, absolutely unavoidable. And I still think that the Russians are not heavy-handing this. They are not carpet bombing and blank bombing all the cities into nothingness. They haven't taken out all the water and power grids everywhere until it take you centuries to rebuild them. They haven't bombed them back into the Stone Age.
Oh, so they're not acting like Americans?
Yeah, they're not.
All right, yeah.
America would have had a 50-day air war before they sent a tank in.
Yeah, well, you just see what they did to Libya.
What you're seeing in the general media around the world, and as we know, we're all seeing different stuff because we're all being fed and misdirected from other stuff. But Putin seems to be following a nice something. I think he's actually plagiarized a war plan from probably World War One in the way that he constructed the assault that we were given the maps for through the media about what he's actually doing. The problem with that is that there's a couple of major factors, not least of all the advancement of technology since then, and also with that let me see, you can black out the internet, you can do all sorts of things, but it's been proven where they've blacked out the internet in countries like Cuba and various other places in the last couple of years, that you still can't actually black out communication now. Technology enables a communication globally amongst the people on this planet that they can't entirely shut down. China does an amazing job of trying to do that, but they still haven't actually got 100% success rate. And so that's a real weakness. For us, it's an enormous power that we can talk to each other like we're doing now in privileged society around the world that have electricity and internet. But we can actually talk, and there is enormous power in that. There is an absolute, like we've seen, I'm not sure if you saw it, there have been protests everywhere all around the world against what's going on and what's being done to the populace in Ukraine. But, and the protests, bless their cotton socks. I mean, there was the scary one. Well, I was a bit scared for the people in St. Petersburg that were protesting, people in Russia that actually came out and were protesting against what their country was in fact doing. I was a bit scared for them. But the power of communication is something that seems to be grossly underestimated still by these powers that believe they are beyond the power.
Because they want their spoken word to last inside your closed rooms.
The rooms are closed.
And that's gonna be, like we said earlier, it's that automated response. Put the mask on, take the mask off. How many are going to put the mask on, the loyalty mask on, when your government asks you to do something?
Well, I think for Australian or Victorians is putting the mask on so we don't have the Victorian police fine us and shoot us. So there's an element of fear there. But I do find it interesting. Remember, only 7 days ago that protests were bad, and there were the views of a select few.
Yes, Canadians are being persecuted as bad as Ukrainians right now.
Yeah.
But it's only wrong when it's only wrong when they do it. See, when we do it, it's fine. There's that dichotomy. Justin Trudeau is a powerful leader and he's moving forward to save the Canadians. Vladimir Putin is just evil.
Yeah, and blackface Hitler's career is done.
Yeah, hopefully. Well, that's one, a bit of comedy that came out. Apparently, in the Canadian government, they're putting in a bill or an amendment or a piece of paper. They're going to fight environmental racism.
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, because climate change is racist, don't you know?
Well, there's a bit of context. It's from a C-SPAN clip of the Canadian House of Commons, and one of the members of the Green Party, Elizabeth May, asked the Prime Minister or the Liberal Party a question about the inequitable distribution of the consequences of climate change, and he retorted with the contextualization. He coined the phrase "environmental racism" kind of on the spot. And, it's a classic Trudeau moment. And when you think about it, it doesn't really fit, because, it's not racism, you immediately when you hear the word racism, you think that there's an intent behind it. The fact that changing climate may affect poor people more severely is not necessarily intentionally directed racism.
Environmental racism. What has the world fallen into? Stupidity.
Yeah.
Well, they're removing anything Russian. There's a video game for FIFA, and they're removing the Russian football team from that video game.
Yep.
Yeah. And basically, now, okay, what happens in 3 days if Putin is taken out by a coup? Do all these idiots like, oh no, we like Russian now, and we try and build up on Twitter?
So if Putin falls from a coup, the fucking world's going to go stupid. The world's going to go stupid.
Yeah, I'm just using the example of like, oh, we don't hate Russia now. It's very 1984. I think, Andrew, you coined the thing as it's very 1983 because 1984 worked. 1983, no, it's just not the same.
Not the same.
But that's the thing is, like there are people that because they are Russian, they're being attacked because they're Russian, even though they've been living in the United States their entire life. I keep seeing stories on Twitter where my parents were talking Russian to each other in a restaurant, and 3 people came up and just berating them about what's happening in the Ukraine. And it's like, hang on, didn't the woke heads defend the whole thing about China and COVID? But this one's okay. It doesn't make sense. You can even go back to the internment camps for the Japanese in World War II, where you're Japanese, we'll just put you on a camp for 3 years.
So the official NATO defense plan that they're following for the Russian invasion of the Ukraine, and now this is official. I've actually, through classified connections of mine, I've actually seen the defense plan, and it's titled "The Crazy Ex-Girlfriend Defense." And I'm taking the Fleetwood Mac CD. You can have your vodka. But it's like everything we're doing is just kind of like crazy ex-girlfriend, right? It's like not really addressing the fact that this guy invaded a country. And I'm keeping the Costco club membership.
Yeah, well, it's also the crazy girlfriend who just insults the boyfriend constantly, and then the boyfriend has enough and has a moment of weakness and raises his hand and slaps the woman, and all of a sudden he's the enemy. He's just been berated for 2 years. Now, I'm not saying domestic violence is good, but insulting someone for 2 years, that is a form of violence. And of course, being male,
but you also got to say that one of those sides is the cartel. Okay.
Well,
that is putting people inside government positions and buying out and corrupting the internals of the governments everywhere.
Well, actually, no. In my example, this is a Portland, Oregon relationship. So the cartel is the other boyfriend.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's some crazy things going on. You got to realize the amount of money the cartel does to buy out governments. Okay. Yeah. It buys out whole governments, just like the cartels in Mexico do. And Putin is fighting. That's why I've said since day one, this is Putin going John Wick on their ass. You killed my puppy.
Yeah, and now we're not defending Putin because he's not the best person, and I'm sure he's part of his own cartel and blah blah blah. Right. But he's just over having been screwed around with the cartels in the Ukraine, and it's global because the Biden connection to Ukraine. I think it was Romney, Pelosi, Kerry, and Biden. All their kids have executive jobs in the Ukraine. It's like it's pure globalism, like everything's made in China. Money laundering is Ukraine. Australia grows wheat. It's all part of the system.
So did you guys realize what's happened in Ukraine in the last 10 years?
I was
What
going
the
to say,
cartels have done?
how about we actually talk about what's going on and how the Ukraine is actually run? Because we discussed that in the room before we came out on the show.
Yeah.
Well, like how the CIA...
Ukrainian, hold on one second. The Ukrainian gangsters have been investing in high-tech employees, and they have fortified their own internal systems and have been bringing Indians in for decades and getting them full citizenships there. So they have their own internal tech firms that are now running the oil companies. They've created the technological infrastructure that can support the entire oil industry there, all on drug money. And they're trying to get Europe to accept drug-funded projects that are oil pipelines or are this farming or are this, even though they're all drug-funded. The Ukraine was rejected 2 different times by the EU because it was too corrupt.
That's right.
That's why Putin's going crazy there, knocking them out at their homes.
4 years, Ukraine has been going through the whole NATO development. I don't even know how they were pulling that off, but because there's been a lot of, why don't they just join NATO now? No, there's this whole process that takes years. It's a long thing. And for the last 4 years, they've been in that process, which has certainly offended Putin. But I like to say it with an element of putrid in there. Just, if you're going to be
that position was bought by the drug money. To even be in alignment was bought by the drug money. And that's why Putin was miffed.
Look, if you've been to somewhere like the Ukraine, somewhere like India, somewhere like Mexico, the country and the governments are owned by the drug lords, by the cartels.
Right.
And so you can't get anything done. And very similar, the Ukraine to India. When you go to India, a lot of you have probably been there, some of you may not have, but as you drive around India, there's a lot of half-built buildings. There's a lot of sort of, the second and third floor haven't been completed and stuff. And that's because the drug lords withhold the money and all the rest. And that's how it is. The Ukraine's very similar, where when the USSR dissolved back in the 90s, most of the other countries that left the Union have flourished economically and in every other way as well. Ukraine's really struggled to get on its feet because it has always been owned and driven by not just extraordinary resources in the land itself, but by the cartels that own it.
Right.
So it's
Ukraine is the bread basket of Europe.
It really is.
It really is. Yeah.
Can we add the woo-woo part aspect as well? Because isn't the Khazarian Jews, aren't they from around that area as well? It's multiple levels because we know about the riches and the money laundering. But let's step into woo-woo of what's the spiritual and ancient history of that area.
Oh, that's a good topic.
So you have the Byzantine separation and then the secondary separation because they weren't affected by some of the European religions. Or was it Orthodoxy? Christian Orthodox, and that's the separation of the two until the Marxists came in and tried to eliminate religion, which was in the 1900s.
Pizza? What was that?
Yeah. Someone very happily got pizza then. That's just not fair.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, as the joke. So, I rewrote a joke from another comedian. He said,
"When in doubt, right." I always say this to people when you're listening to these war stories. When in doubt, look at the map. And if you look at the map of Ukraine, it's endowed with great long rivers. Okay, it also has a humongous rail system to move all of that grain.
Gee,
and the river system. Yeah,
that Stan family's done really well. Look at all the countries they own.
Yeah.
But also, well, yeah, Ukraine is one of the gateways to Asia, and the other one is through Turkey, basically. So there's all one or two, and you got the Middle East, and we know how the Middle East is working. And so now they're trying to do the northern route because they've been pumping up this whole Russia thing, and of course it doesn't help because Putin did something, but it's been especially like. And people are saying, imagine if Donald Trump was president, how the Ukraine invasion would have gone. Yeah, it probably wouldn't have. Because, with that batshit crazy egotistical guy, he would have nuked fucking Moscow by now. Like they wouldn't know what he... Because Biden is so weak at breathing. Like that, I think that's kind of why Putin thought he can get away with, do what he's doing. Because he saw what was happening in Canada, which from his perspective, I think he said something like the West is lost without even a shot being fired.
He did.
Yes. So I want to take this moment to say, if you are listening on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter, or Twitch, and we want to be a part of the conversation here in the Zoom room, Robert is going to put up some information on the screen so you can go from your other space to come here to the Zoom room. We will be taking some callers later on. And yes, it has been a little bit of a serious conversation, but at the same time, there is always the setup to the great comedy that is to arrive.
Oh, is that a French word?
Yes, I'm trying to snazzy it up.
So the English language, it grows.
Right.
Apparently, gank is a word.
So I want everyone to just do a little comedy thing for a second. So what Monty was saying before, if Trump had been in position for this, what would have happened? We want you to come up with your craziest Trump idea. What would have Trump done in this situation now? So take a time and write it into the chat room. What do you think Trump would have done?
Well, my point is it wouldn't have happened because Putin would have challenged Trump. But what we're talking about is that Putin's like, I'll have a go. And what would build a wall? But where would that wall be built? Speaking of which, a lot of Western countries have walls around their parliament and official buildings at the moment. It's like, what do you know? Were they preparing for the Pfizer release? But that's a different conversation. But yeah, what would you can imagine the press conference though. Got the biggest army. It's the biggest ever. we'll take down Putin. I can't do a Trump impression.
Yeah,
so Melissa, what do you think Trump would have done?
Pursed his lips. He loves that. He would have got his lips out, said a lot of important words with a lot of P's because he likes to purse, and then he, probably gone and dyed his hair again. Really, I imagine not a whole lot. Poor Trump probably would have been left in the dark as much as he was about what was going on with China and everything anyway. I
think he would have been so angry at Ukraine, he would have made sanctions against Ukraine. It could have been pro-Putin in the UN, voting everything down.
he would have been the angry father. You're bad as both each other. Go to your respective rooms and think about what you've done.
Bad media.
What? I really love jumping on. He probably would have jumped on old terms like either Sputnik or Cold War. He would have loved doing that. He loves his phrase, like the Chinese virus.
No, China.
He would have loved jumping on that too. There would have been a good catchphrase with something really old and racist in it.
Yeah,
It's funny when people still think that Trump is a Russian asset. So you're telling me Vladimir Putin, who's been jousting with the Western world, gets an operative in the White House and does nothing for 4 years and waits till he leaves and then does something. I've watched a lot of Bond films. That doesn't make any sense.
I like the Queen's lap dance.
So I want to delve into the Narcos here for a second. So have we all seen the TV series Narcos?
Yes.
Yes. I'm waiting for Narcos Arkansas. I think that would be brilliant.
I'm living it, Andrew. You know that.
I know that. So Melissa, you haven't seen Narcos?
I haven't seen Narcos, no.
If it put it on your bucket list to watch, it's fascinating. Look into how truly corrupt the world was then.
Yeah, and I realized, that meme where there's that guy that's standing all alone, like an empty pool, or he's he's looking out somewhere. That's actually from Narcos. That's Pablo Escobar, and it took me 4 months. Like, wait a minute, That's Escobar, because he has those moments where he's staring out trying to formulate things.
All right, looking up this.
So right now,
there's three seasons of Narcos and 3 seasons of Narcos Mexico. It's a bit of a read, but they're made brilliantly. Yeah, that's actually from Narcos.
Right. So in Ukraine right now, there are 7 oligarchs who make more money than Pablo at his greatest, from cocaine, heroin trade, and the illegal and over the counter, behind the counter drugs, opioids, etc.
And how much was Pablo? What was an $8 billion dollars, and that was like the late '80s.
Yeah.
So whatever that is.
Sorry, Monty. I apologize.
No, I was just going to say I don't know what that is in today's money with inflation.
Around 800 billion.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right.
So what's the, when I think of the cartels down here where I live in Latin America, I know what the revenue stream is. What's the revenue stream in Ukraine? Like what is the big money maker for the cartels?
Drugs, prostitution, black market, stolen products,
human slavery.
Human slavery, and then not street scams, high white collar scams, boilerplate, hijack offices, selling fake stocks because that's not investigated, which is the same thing that goes on here. So blue collar, white collar crime.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. A lot of protection rackets.
And it sort of moved. It increased in 2014 because that's when the CIA did that coup with the actual Nazis, and I don't remember the timeline from there. But at the moment, the president of the Ukraine is an ex-stand-up comic.
Yeah. Also, identity theft and hacking is really big out of Ukraine too, as an actual practice, because they brought in such high-tech people to layer the cartels as protection, integrated protection. At the same time, they got some of the top-level hackers there that could, steal international money.
So when it's Russian bots or it's Russian cyber war, well, a third of it could be actually Ukrainian.
Well, Ukrainian criminals, yes.
Yeah.
Or Ukrainian-sponsored criminals.
Yeah. So so they are Russian. Oh, okay. Anyway.
Ukrainian Russian. Yeah.
I put forward my displeasure towards the script of The Last Jedi, and I was called a Russian bot. And I said, no, my great grandmother was Prussian, so I'm part Prussian bot. And she may be Jewish as well, so we'll find that. I'll keep you updated. We're going to look into the family tree where I could be part Jewish.
So yes, they are seizing oligarchs' mega yachts also, and most of those mega yachts are all that money is drug money that they invested into the stock market.
Yeah,
because they can do that in Ukraine. Direct drug money deposits go buy on the American stock market, which gives them a layer of protection. That's why there's going to be a lot of deep investigation if the banks are actually going to honor the sanctions or not, because a lot of these guys have accounts on file in America with cash in them.
Here's a question: long term, what is going to happen because of all these sanctions? Because you can't ostracize one country like that, because you're just going to back them into a corner.
But they do it all the time. How many times has Russia been under sanctions in the last 30 years? 18 out of the last 30 years?
Yeah, is that because they Team Dark lost their phantom enemy and they still just want to have Russia as the enemy?
You can boil it down to that, but it's more like they got to beat down their side, so it takes them a lot longer to recover, and at the same time you get further ahead.
Well, yeah, because
it's still a different level of the game.
Like when not sanctions, what am I talking? When the Soviet Union collapsed, the 90s was very interesting to live in Russia and Eastern Europe, especially Eastern Europe, as we pointed out. But now, apart from the Ukraine, the rest of them are doing quite well, like Poland and Hungary, and they've. I'm only going by metal bands touring everywhere, so there's got to be some money there. You know what I mean? But the Ukraine for the last 7 years, they've been what is it, a civil war because there's been separatists and what remind me of what happened in the Crimea because I thought they had a referendum and 90% of people wanted to join Russia, and then
but most people don't know that, Monty.
I get
It was
that's why.
presented,
Luckily, we know your show.
Presented to that to the rest of the world.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The Western view was like, no, Russian Hitler just walked in. Yeah.
Well, there's the other. There's certainly some sort of deal going on with China at the moment because it was terribly convenient that Putin waited until the Winter Olympics were over.
Oh yeah, he was very cordial. That's why the Russians were allowed to compete.
So there's an awful amount of complexity that we're not hearing about, like in general media and everything, because of all those fabulous bills that were passed in all of the different political avenues. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Actually, this particular meme reminds me that Andrew was asking me earlier about the various air bases through the Ukraine, the military air bases. And I was saying to him that I really didn't know much about what the whole was until I was looking at maps, satellite maps that were generic satellite maps. I actually looked up satellite maps and looked for what was in the media and everything to see where they were and what the holds were. Because, of course, we were being fed all the stuff in the media about just how much ground force, be it, obviously their air force as well, but how much ground force Putin had stocked at the various places on the borders he was about to go over into, which was just absolutely absurd, just an enormous amount. And I'll say it again, in a world where technology is that high, you don't need to be running a World War II war plan. Like you don't. There's
a reason he brought all that junk, and it was to make a point. I'm not going away anytime soon, because those oligarchs / cartel members didn't think he'd ever cross the border, and once he crossed the border, he's got more than enough to supply it and to withstand whatever the West is going to do. Okay? And the West is going to do whatever it's going to do, and he's not going to stop until he finds his 10 tons of gold bullion in an oligarch's house and says the war is worth it now. I guarantee there's 200, 300, 400 tons of gold in that country that didn't get out.
Much more than New York Federal Reserve.
Well, maybe the gold. Well, that brings me back to why was one of the first holds Putin wanted the Chernobyl site?
Gold.
There's an enormous amount of uranium in the Ukraine as well.
And gold too. Yes. They store their gold there.
That's the gold.
Yes.
So
which makes sense.
And the fact that the priority again was, they've just taken, I've forgotten the name of it again, I'm sorry everyone, but the major nuclear power plant that is still functioning, not the one that killed everyone, that is actually still a very dangerous site to go to. So what the hell did he want it for? But being Chernobyl. But his priority of getting hold of the nuclear power plants is curious and a little scary. No, I'm not thinking nuclear bombs, everyone. That's not what I'm talking about.
No, just turn the power off. He just turned the power off, and I believe 1 million refugees have left the Ukraine because they believe that Armageddon's happening.
Right.
Where,
look, I was mentioning to you guys earlier in the room, and I'll mention it to these people. I've got quite a few people I know over there. I'm not going to brag about that. That's one of the things that's ticked me off the most past week, of particular on social media. Everyone, I spoke on stage in the Ukraine and I know people in the Ukraine. I don't give a shit who you know. We're talking about them, not you. But watching people actually escape, people that I do know, a couple of journalists, I think Monty mentioned one of them before, that I do know, and how they've escaped. One particular friend came out of Kyiv, actually managed to get on the train, which was quite amazing. And another friend actually got on the same train with his wife and 2 kids on this particular train, standing room only, and they would be standing up absolutely packed tight for at least 10 hours to get over to Lviv, which is over near the Polish, over near the border, Georgian border. But it's, and then go across, of course. But the train ride took forever because, and this is where it's just, in this day and age, every now and then the train actually had to stop, all lights out, complete silence of everyone packed on the train because tanks were nearby or planes were nearby. In this day and age, seriously. And this is how they've had to travel. And we're talking men, women, children, everyone. there are a lot of people over there. And let me bring it back to the actual people that are on the ground, which is way more what I care about in what's happening there, as you know. I have a number of people, a number of clients, patients that I work with. There's a little 7-year-old boy that's being treated for cancer at the moment. And his family won't leave because they can't leave him. He also can't get the treatment that he needs at the moment. They have his meds at home, but they don't have the professionals that need to actually help them to administer them. And so there's a lot of situations like that, millions of situations like that at the moment where people can't escape. Your refugees can't get to the borders. They can't cross over. There's the great privileged few that are expats from various countries around the world that are getting out fast. They've got the money behind them. But the people that are there are really struggling. And so the desperate calls that I'm getting for help from people, particularly children that need serious medical care, won't be getting it and are dying because of the current environment and what's going on. And again, did we say it during the show? I'm not sure. But again, the weakness is in distribution.
Right.
This is
distribution and logistics. Yep.
Yeah. This is where their power really lies, and their weakness lies in the power of us to communicate. And so I work in the field of quantum bioenergetics, and so I can communicate with anyone that lives in a state of vibration anywhere on this planet because I work in multidimensional communication beyond just the energetic sources that are bound to this planet. Anyone can do what I do. Let me mention that too. You could be doing exactly what I do. I'll teach you if you want. But aside from that, I can communicate at that level, and this is where we need to lift our game. I'm sure Andrew would agree with me on this. This is where we talk about people raising vibrations and lifting their vibrations. But this is how you do it. You lift your vibration. And it's way easier than you think.
And tune into shows like these when you know you have to have time for recreation. You got to let things go. And letting things go means letting things out of your brain so your brain can process stuff at the subconscious level while you're having a good time. Is coming and watching us here, coming on a Friday night to do what? Make your asses smile.
That's right.
Yeah.
When I teach the live program, and Monty and I are like brother and sister with many lives, so we can go right into that. But Monty will come to the occasional one, and I'll be up there teaching. Like Andrew said, I use laughter to get people to learn. I use it all the time. Most of the time I self-deprecate, but it's I make them laugh at me and all of my mishaps and all the crap that I've done trying to be human. But and at one of the particular courses, I was exhausted after teaching, being on stage all day and everything. And I turned to Mont and said, I honestly, because Mont does stand up. He hasn't done it for the last couple of years. But,
I did a routine for my mum yesterday.
And I said to Mont after it, I don't know how you do what you do. Honestly, it's exhausting. And he said, you just did 2 straight hours of it.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's exactly the power of laughter in lifting your vibration. I don't know anything. You've always heard that laughter is the best medicine. It actually is. It gets you out of your way. It's a powerful tool.
Yeah, if you want to have the research on laughter and what it releases chemically and hormonal for the body, you get your mind blown away. And when you actually do the research on what it actually does, and then there's still so much about laughter that they just don't understand. It illuminates part of the brain that almost never show activity.
That's right.
And usually, if you're laughing that hard, you actually lose control. And when someone's performing, making people laugh, people are laughing uncontrollably. They try and talk. It's also infectious. So if you've got one person laughing really loud, everyone else starts to laugh as well. It's almost like yawning.
There's a frequency in the laugh that you can that just does something to you.
That's
and it is infectious. Yeah.
Oh, have you heard it?
I work on people that have had a brain injury, and particularly in children with disabilities, children that have had either an acquired brain injury or were born with a brain injury. Laughter actually helps redistribute the neurotransmitters in the brain. I can actually open up and realign other neural highways through the brain and get the brain to work better by making these kids laugh. I do it with adults too. Anyone's got a brain injury. But if I can make someone smaller with a disability or with an injury, a brain injury laugh, I know we have a chance at realigning the communication in their own brain. It's an amazing thing.
We all need laughing gas. We all need a daily dose of laughing gas.
And next level from that, Melissa, is when you make, it's like when you're just say with like the four of us are talking or five of us are talking, and one person's making everyone else laugh. At some point, the people laughing join in the comedy, and that opens up more because comedy is making connections, and so the brain is creating. And so you try and do you top the laugh beforehand, and you do a whopper, the whopper topper. You just keep going on. Phyllis Diller is a perfect example of that. She would do you do a rule of three where you do three jokes, but then she would build it around and get up to 9. So she would have 3 rules of 3. So you would say a joke, top it, and then even go further and then further, and she would get 9 laughs, and you're just building up that laughter, and she has to stop because the whole room is crying. You know when you cry from laughing?
Yes.
It's and even like, you know, pissing yourself. Yeah, you lose control, and so the blood goes, no, we have to evacuate now.
So why do gag reels on YouTube videos connect people, and why do we laugh at people doing their acting lines and making a mistake when they laugh? Because it passes an energy on.
Yeah, it's osmosis.
It's called on live stage theater. It's called corpsing, when they break character, because usually when a character dies on stage and they have 10 minutes of just lying there pretending to be dead, sometimes they get the giggles because
they can't stop. They can't stop laughing.
And so the term in entertainment is I was corpsing, because you're trying to do a serious scene, but you've got the giggles and you're trying to hold and you laugh. And so when there's those mistakes, when you're watching gag reels of, like, say, I think The Wire does it, where they had a little special thing, if you remember the TV show The Wire. You know how intense that serious drama is about drugs and gangs and murder and everything else like that. And so it releases tension, and it's funny because it's like, hang on, aren't you supposed to be doing a Shakespeare, Richard III Shakespearean play, and you make a goof? And it's funny because it's just out of nowhere. And that's one premise of creating a joke, is you build up tension and release, and it's usually a surprise. That's where you get the laugh. Like, going back to what Andrew said, they're not sure what laughter is, because some jokes makes people cry and piss themselves and curl up in a ball, but then you have someone standing right next to them and go, I don't get it. That's the weirdness as well. I guess it's down to frequency.
Well, hold on. The people that can't hear it also have an ideology that blocks it usually.
Well, yes, yeah, that's not funny.
Well, Santo in the chat room just said before that laughter is still legal.
For now,
yeah.
But and to that, I'll add that comedy is one of the most powerful forms of communication to actually talk about any serious topic now. Comedy doesn't, because comedy can break the whole politically correct bullshit and say something outrageous, you can actually talk about a topic we're not allowed to talk about in comedy still. Even that's starting to get canned a little bit, but it's but it's still, at least you can still discuss it. It's probably why we call this a comedy show.
Well, that's the thing. Like, when you have tyranny kick in, they usually get the intellectuals and the entertainers. They did that in Berlin in 33, 34. They started to arrest cabaret people because they were criticizing the government. And you notice you're kind of in trouble when the governments don't like being ridiculed. Like, the greatest weapon you can have against these people is pointing and laughing. Now, they may shoot you, but it's but that's the thing. Like, say with Trump in office now, you could make fun of him quite easily. My Trump joke is, like, the man's so intelligent he stared at a solar eclipse. Like, okay, fair enough. That's my only Trump joke, really. But all the late night TV hosts who are just fucking boring, they did for 5 years Orange Man Bad, and they wondered why their ratings just dropped, because people even hate Trump. Stop watching. Now it's Orange Man Bad for ratings. Yeah, they keep bringing him back, even though Biden has been a comedy diamond mine because of the last 14 months. It's only been 14 months. Yeah, but you can't insult the disabled. You racist. Well, racist, disableist. Well, like AOC, like, you're just making fun of me because you just want to date me. No. So yeah, and it's a coping mechanism as well. It's very Australian, is to have a sense of humor. If you live here, you'll understand, especially like 200 years ago, where everything's trying to kill you. 60% of it can kill you. The otthe 30% does want to kill you, but they're small little bugs.
So
and it's the Australian sort of, you got to laugh type thing.
So I'm going to pop in here and ask everybody here, what do you think? How does this end? Or does this just stretch out for weeks?
What, Ukraine?
Yes.
Ukraine or
The Ukraine. Ukraine. It's pronounced urane.
Uranium.
Does
I want
anybody?
to know to me it feels like a massive misdirect. So I want to know where it's going. I mean, I'm sorry, but I've lived in this world too long, and I'm super suspicious of anything like this now. War has always been a massive economic misdirect.
I think it's sort of split into two, where there's an agenda with Putin and what's going on, but it's being used as a misdirect at the same time. I don't think it's just purely a misdirect, because that would mean Putin's in on the whole game, if that makes sense. But it's being used as a misdirect because it had the data from Pfizer coming out, where I think over 1,200 people died or adverse reactions, and then 10 years ago when they did the swine flu, 14 people died, and so they halted it. And so the way these people work, there's
that was kept so quiet in the media that they won the lawsuit where Pfizer had to fully disclose their figures. And then the figures have now been disclosed. And did anyone here even know? Like, it's been so quiet as it's come out, and it is public access. That was the ruling. So you can actually look it up and be as horrified as you like.
Twitter is calling it misinformation. It's like, well, you're saying that Pfizer's lying. But Bruce, you're about your answer. I stepped in there. So, what do you see with the Ukrainian situation?
Do you guys remember the Oka standoff in Canada between the Mohawks and the military? Went on for like a year over a golf course. It's going to be something like that.
Over a Ukrainian mobsters golf course.
It's going to be like that, but just escalated a bit more, like more weapons,
so
more Kevlar, more checkpoint.
But worse than Standing Rock.
A Standing Rock.
Well, what about 2-3 years ago? The natives in
yeah.
This is going to be more than that. I mean, right now the entire country's on a full court military press.
Yeah, but I don't see them really mixing it up unless a foreign element comes in there and starts really.
Foreign elements are already in there. They're sending technology and missiles and anti-air weapons to the Ukrainian soldiers.
Well, what's Putin's plan? Like, is he going to capture eastern Ukraine and stop, or is he going to try and take the whole country, or is he just going to say, okay, that's I found my gold, and he withdraws just to Donbass and the other one?
He would have taken Kiev. He would have taken Kiev already if it wasn't for he didn't have air superiority over the city, and some of the bridges got taken out, so they all had to be a rapid redirect.
See, that's
why you're seeing those huge columns of vehicles. And let me tell you something: they don't want vehicles lined up on the road. They become open targets for airplane strikes.
And that's what feels very off.
Down fire lane.
That's what feels very off. It's like, I mean, not the battling the oligarchs. That kind of makes sense. But in the mainstream, it doesn't. Apart from Putin, Hitler. Like, what's the agenda here? What's he trying to achieve? And of course, you get yelled at, oh, he's a dictator. He wants to build the Soviet Union.
No. I've said my part is he's there to clear the cartels out.
Yes, but you're
that's
saying
their power base. Their gold is under their bunkers there.
Yes.
Their documents are there. Yes.
Yeah, but no one else is saying that, Andrew. I'm not saying you're wrong. What my point is,
no, there are others that are saying this. I'm not the only one saying this.
All right. But in the mainstream, none of that idea is completely off the table in the mainstream, and so that's what I mean. It feels off because it doesn't make sense in mainstream history. Like, well, what's he trying to achieve? What's he doing? And they go, oh, he's Hitler and blah, blah, blah. But the actions don't make sense. Now, what you're saying with the oligarchs and the cartels, everything falls into place.
See, the oligarchs are the cartels. There is no separation between them.
Well, I noticed Biden's going after the Russian oligarchs, and
Right.
I'm like, well, because I think
who are the same ones in Ukraine. They're the ones that are manipulating black market politics and white market politics.
Yeah,
Because there's a
also-
whole black market
Biden
politics
does
going on there.
Of course.
Yeah.
Yeah, and Biden's connected to somebody in the Ukraine. Like, we got to the point where we've mentioned before. Has everyone seen the footage of Biden confessing that he blackmailed the Ukrainian government?
Yeah, the footage came out years ago. Yeah.
Yeah. Tim Pool shared that on Twitter this week. And that's that's the transparency. And so it's fascinating how the mainstream media, I would hate to be in the mainstream media now because their spell's gone and they can't release if they release the wrong bit of information, the whole sandcastle crumbles. And so like they can go after Tim Pool for certain things, but they won't touch that video, what he shared, because that's that's not a crack in the dam. That's a massive freeway in the dam.
I was just going to say to people in the chat room, they're talking about Putin's trying to keep NATO back. That's actually a very, very small element of what's truly happening. And Liliana actually pointed out in the chat room too, and I want to point this out when you're talking about old footage being brought up. Old footage is being played showing NATO throwing missiles on Serbia for 87 days. They're using that to show that NATO's actually doing stuff at the moment. And it's just the crap that they're pulling up this old footage trying to convince the general public for some reason that it's about NATO. That should immediately make you think this is not about NATO.
Well, in the first 4 or 5 days of all of this conflict, is that the term we're using? How many false stories came out? You know, the ghost of Kiev, where there was this brave Ukrainian pilot was taken down. That's actual footage from a video game.
Yeah,
that's just what the amount of
so the misinformation warfare is on overdrive here.
Yeah, big time. And again, just guard your mind. Be careful what you let into it. Look at what you read. If you need a break, go and watch a good comedy show. Chances are you get some truth from it. But if you need a break from all that stuff, but like we said to you last time, read stuff that's quality stuff. Don't just pick up the local paper or, Hello Magazine's probably as much as
so today, Russia Today closed down.
Of course, that's what I did.
RT Today was closed down and laid off all its employees. Russia Today, the TV show. Closed down and let go of all of its employees.
Now I'm getting Santo just said RT.com gone, and yet I just looked at it 3 hours ago. So
no. RT as the actual broadcast company is done.
Yeah, I know, but Santo said the website's gone. It's like it's still there. Apparently in England they're blocking RT from the internet in the UK, but Paul Joseph Watson said, well, are the Russians going to block the BBC for the same reason of, lying propaganda? And so, the whole thing, it feels off and there's all this hypocrisy and it's the US operations. There you go. Yeah. And of course, we can't have half these conversations with normal people because they just see an aggressor killing innocent people, which is true. But the way that we got there to it happening is oligarchs and NATO. I mean, NATO was created to stop the Soviet Union, so it's 30 years out of date. And over Bush 1 promised to stop the creep of NATO into Eastern Europe, and then Bush 2 said, "Nah, fuck it." And you just look at the map over the timeline, and NATO's just doing. It's like Israel and Palestine. Every time you look at the map, a border's moved. So you look at the map, and that country's now part of NATO. And then you come back 3 weeks later, and it's not really about NATO because they're only in the Ukraine. Because if you go back to that map, Robert. Is it Estonia, the Belarus, the 3 countries above the Ukraine on the map? They're NATO based, but they're not actually. Putin's not going in there. And Biden actually said
those 3 countries, Pat. Hold on, I'm sorry to interrupt, but it's important to say here. Those 3 countries are nowhere near as important as Ukraine.
Yeah.
It is the waterways; those don't.
And also, like, well, Biden said, like, the NATO will defend all of its countries. Now, Ukraine's not part of NATO. And I think that would be one reason why Russia won't go into a NATO country, because that will trigger the NATO alliance. And so if Putin's smart, he wouldn't go anywhere near these countries anyway, because the Ukraine's sort of by itself. And so, you got Belarus and the countries all up. Is Poland's part of it? Romania? Ukraine's roughly, there's 3 countries in Eastern Europe that isn't part of NATO. And so from a Russian perspective, you just see, that scene in the Holy Grail when John Cleese is running towards the castle. It's like that every time they look up, NATO's just taking a step forward. And so
it is doing that. It is doing that because the oligarchs are paying them to do it. They're bribing them. Yeah. And that's why Putin's power is threatened by this intermediate drug sponsored class.
Oh yeah. There's puppet masters behind the whole thing. Yeah. But it still, that's why, the whole thing, it feels off. And this is why, because it's not your traditional war. Like, I don't see like the Russians leaving Kiev and leaving a big fucking wooden horse.
It'll be a giant Smirnoff bottle.
Yeah, it's like, oh, look at this. The Russians have gone home and they left as a big gift.
Oh, look, they left us stripper in a box.
Yeah, look at all these. Look at these poles for our young daughters to learn dance.
Stripper in box.
Well, that is a downside because of the conflict. There's a lot of millionaires in the United States that aren't getting their brides.
Yes,
delivered. So will someone think of the children?
Distribution. There's your problem.
Yeah. It's a breakdown.
Distribution, logistics, distribution.
Yeah, the supply chain. But have you noticed? I didn't realize the cure to a pandemic was actually war. So Putin's done well there, because here in Victoria, apart from the vaccine passports, the pandemic's over. Let's move on. And yet we're still in the pandemic bill. Even Canada, they got rid of their protests, but most of their shit's still in place, and they're going after the protesters because they're emotionally 5.
Yes, and the brain fart. Never mind. My brain seized.
Ladies and gentlemen, Andrew Bartzis has had a Biden moment.
Yes, I'm biting my moments.
And Biden had a moment as well where he stumbled and forgot where he was, and it was a 5 to 10 second pause. Now, this is slightly ironic because he's reading the fucking speech off a teleprompter. He's still fucked up and paused. Even my mum has said something's wrong with him. He's got dementia or Alzheimer's, and it's sad. Not because he's going through it. It's sad that everyone else is not helping him out. Like, I wouldn't arrest Biden. I would put Biden in a home and give him a lot of ice cream. He'll be happy for the rest of his life. It's everyone around him that is still propping him up. Like, apparently his wife's a doctor. I'm not sure of what, though, because why are you still allowing this frail old... he makes... If you remember the cartoon Mr. Magoo? He makes Magoo look like Stephen Hawking. This is the level we're at.
And Monty is not a fan of Biden, everyone.
Have we noticed? Do we have a little anger problem towards Biden, Monty? What do the Buddhists say about anger? Let it go of your attachments to Biden.
Now I'm just going to bring up the book of Boba Fett because you said attachments. So
we're just going to have to have Melissa come in there and snip out some of these attachments. You can't be so polarized, man.
No, I don't care. Like, just anyone. He's the leader of the free world. So, it's just the hypocrisy between administrations, this one and the last one.
Mm-hmm. Really?
Are you defending Biden? I'll just turn it around. So you're defending Biden? You think Uncle Joe's doing well? Is that what you're saying?
No, I'm not a Biden supporter. I'm not a Trump supporter either. See, people think I'm a Trump supporter because I attack Trump's enemy.
And that people actually
Oh,
figuring
no, I
out.
know you're not a full Trump supporter. You're secretly in your heart, you're a pro-Trumper. I've watched your
No.
broken Trump heart go month after month after month since the election was lost. It was like you lost your bosom buddy.
No.
There was
Yeah.
a recovering Monty,
Yeah.
and I will
Yeah.
ask the audience if they noticed a recovering Monty after Trump lost.
And the weird thing is, Bruce was more of a Trumper than I. So
Yes, I know.
was.
Bruce almost went into hiding.
Bruce,
Okay,
Bruce
look. I got to make this perfectly clear, okay? Because I get this label a lot. The guy. Look, I agree with everybody who's made criticisms of the guy that he's really an odd personality, Trump, and a very odd guy. But the simple fact of the matter is, he had me in 2015, 2016, when he said, I'm not signing the Trans-Pacific Partnership and I'm not signing the Paris Accord.
No matter how crazy he was.
Yeah, I mean, that's all I needed to hear. I needed a leader to say, okay, we're not going to this version of globalization because it's nonsense. And it's basically economic restructuring and wealth distribution without calling it that. And, I'm pretty sure I'm the only person on this call who actually took the time to read most of the TPP and the Paris Accord. And they were horrible documents, man, specifically for North America. It was basically a catch-up program for China. China gets a pass on all carbon stuff because they started 25, 30 years behind the US. So this concept of social evolution and natural law is just being chucked out the window, and we're going woke on global national economies. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right?
Also, I would like, what would trigger me is when people would attack Trump and and basically got to the point like I would just attack the Clintons. Like, Trump said things, yeah, and the Clintons did do those things, and that's where I was fighting, because Trump's not the best, but usually whoever the enemy of Trump is much, much, much worse. And people have figured out too, like, they hated Trump, but the last 14 months they realized everything that the Democrats said Trump would become is what Biden's doing now.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, but the also the Democrats are morons when it comes to running campaigns.
Well, yeah,
they've been so entitled to the victories for so long that the people that they hire are nothing but douchebags and regurgitating what they want to hear.
Yeah. I mean, I don't. A lot of conservative shows that I watch, they say, "Oh, the left wants this." I try not to say the left, because half of the percent of the left are nice people with a brain. It's the far left extremist fuck knuckles that are just like, I mean, Bill Maher's changing his tune because he's realized this is wrong. Instead of going with party politics, you use a logical brain. And he's attacking. Bill Maher in the last week and a half has been called right wing because he decided to challenge some far left ideology. This is the simplicity of what's going on.
Yeah.
The absolute irony.
And I want to say
the neocons have joined the Democrats, and we've got to go to Fox News to watch news going on in Canada. What the hell is this world come to? The sides have flipped in our lifetimes.
Yeah,
poorly.
And
yes.
Let's all be honest here. I mean, the Trump presidency was the most entertaining presidency of our lifetimes. I mean, it was just unbelievable, and it was comical, and it was just, the rotating door on how many Secretary of States did he have?
Like 16? Yeah, like 16.
Yeah, it was just like a temp job at the Trump White House. Call manpower. We need a Secretary of State temp.
I need you to call human resources, the greatest human resources. This human sucks. I need a new one.
Must have a high school diploma. So it was an extremely entertaining presidency. Another thing I noticed is that it pointed out to me the incredible dichotomy between the internal perception of America and the global perception of America. So, when Biden got in, the media and the left think, okay, well, we've restored our reputation. America is back. We've gotten through this Trump nightmare. But if you actually look at the Trump years, I mean, that dude was treated like gold. I mean, he's the only leader ever invited for a dinner at the Forbidden City. Everywhere he went, he was respected. And if you go back to the last 2 years of Obama, there were 3 diplomatic total insults to Obama. One happened at the tarmac in Cuba, and one happened at a G20 summit in Shanghai, and one happened in Saudi Arabia, where, you know, he was left on the tarmac and nobody came out to see him. I mean, and the media never played that up, how bad America's reputation was abroad under Obama. And then Trump came in and things seemed to change. And now Biden's back. And I think the question the whole world's asking now is, does America even have a leader right now?
Mm-hmm.
No, it doesn't.
Well, no, because you see, like, Biden lets slip in press conferences, like, oh, I've been told I can't say that, or I can't do this, I'll get in trouble. How many press conferences has he had? 3 in 14 months, and they're all, he gets a cheat sheet with a photo of the journalist, and it's a prearranged question, and they're all softball ones. And you look at the difference between a Biden press conference and a Trump press conference, and one is, Mr. President, what's your favorite ice cream? And then you look at one at Trump, and it looks like it's, you know, that scene in Trading Places when the market opens in New York, and they're all, yeah. It's like the disrespect is completely different, and it's they're fighting Trump because he's evil, and Biden, oh, we shouldn't upset Grandpa, he'll get cranky.
Yeah, so there's a lot of stuff was revealed in the Trump presidency. You know, he ultimately got taken out by COVID. To be honest, I didn't like the way this sort of like fervent nationalism rose up around him. Well, I wasn't a huge fan of the football stadium rallies and stuff like that. It's a little too, I don't know, Nuremberg for me. But I liked what the guy was saying in the election, okay? And I knew that Hillary Clinton would be horrible, and I don't regret that I supported Trump, even though I'm a Canadian and I don't have whatever my memes and my social media comments did. I have no regrets for supporting Trump for those 4 years. The end narrative got a little bit crazy. All these crazy people came out of the woodwork, you know, like Wano Savin and all of these crazy BitChute channels about some elaborate underground military.
QAnon,
yeah. I mean, it got to be pure stupidity. I don't really get involved with that. You know, I do believe there was a little bit of cleaning up going on in the background, but I think when he got into office and he realized how extensive the deep state was, I mean, it's like, how do you change it? You know, it's like swapping an engine out on a car. We're not talking about, you know, the valve on a gasket or something. You know, how do you swap that out? How do you change things? Well, you're not going to do too much in 4 years. And the other thing I liked about the guy is everywhere he went, he was treated with absolute contempt. Buckingham Palace, the Vatican. Did you see Pope Francis's sneer when Trump? I mean, when have you ever seen that? The very fact that he was able to bring out these reactions in people, man, I found that extremely enjoyable, like extremely enjoyable.
Especially the Pope, who's supposed to be the representative of Christ, which is peace, love, and love your brother. And he just daggers.
That was I cut to your throat to look. I mean, that was pure hate, man. The opposite of like the vicar of Christ on earth.
So someone made a meme of when Trump was.
You're forgetting that there was a time when Christ flipped the tables, man.
Yeah, but then he got killed for it. You know, you mess with the does, you got to go. But I remember a meme with Trump and the Queen where they're inspecting some troops, and someone actually photoshopped in a caddy bag full of golf clubs onto the Queen, so it looks like Trump's going golfing and the Queen's the caddy.
Now, but I want to go back to what Bruce said. What Bruce said about leadership, and do you actually have a leader in the US at the moment? And I agree. But that's actually, I'm finding that's global. We're seeing that you're seeing that in Boris, you're seeing that in Macron, you're seeing it in Australia. Our Prime Minister's a freaking powerless joke, and we all hate him. So he's an idiot. And pretty much anyone that's in the UK is saying that about Johnson, and anyone in France is saying about, like, it's society, and I talk society global, where it is leaderless at the moment.
Well, you know that term, the people get the government, they what's that term? You get the government that you deserve. Yeah, that's the meme. That one, I like that. Yeah, you get the government you deserve. Well, fuck no. It's like when people, younger people, blame the baby boomers for the state of the world. Like, you know, we're all Gen X. Like, I don't remember. I was against Bush going into Afghanistan and Iraq. Like, how is it my fault that Bubba just went fucking? You know, I hate when people say humanity is like, well, I'm a human and I didn't agree with that. So stop using absolutes, you Sith Lord.
So how do you kill a swamp creature?
Remove the water. Feed it Twinkies.
Find out what they eat and cut off their food supply.
Yeah. Stop giving it energy.
Do what I did
How do you flush out a swamp creature?
Drain the water.
Bait it.
Well, today's with this environmental pollution, set it on fire.
And the EPA will be after you.
Yes.
Not if you get the EPA to do it. Remember, what was it, 3 years ago? The EPA allowed, they flushed all this copper mine shit into the Colorado River, and it turned it yellow or orange. And their response was, oops. You're the EPA. You can't just fucking say oops and the river just all down. Yeah. Maybe it was in my time.
Yes, they can say oops because they can hide disasters in the courts. And not have to be responsible for it.
Those wonderful courts, yeah. It's like, you know, I've started a new saying. If we're in a just world, the Clintons would have been in jail in the 1980s.
Oh, yeah, from the old Arkansas stuff.
Yeah. I mean, the media came up with the term Arkanside instead of suicide. It was an Arkanside because they knew the Clintons. Like,
yeah, before Epsteining was brought in.
What's the death count for the Clintons now? 49, 79? Like, there's no one, you can't tell me in the history the amount of people that had work colleagues, friends, and acquaintances all kill themselves. It's a statistic anomaly. There's no anywhere in history, maybe the Romans, but you know what I'm trying to say.
The Clintons were just depressing people.
Yeah. Well, have you seen photos of Bill Clinton lately? Sucking the life out of him, and it's not
cancer.
Yeah.
Cancer. He's recovering from cancer.
Yeah.
Wow.
Oh, he's not quite recovered, I can tell you.
No, it looks like he's out of remission. He's like his back probably started another round of chemo or something.
Yeah, he's got a fabulous distribution of Mets from what I can see of metastasis. But anyway, that's his journey. I mean, he's had a couple of pretty major heart attacks.
Yeah.
So
can you see why? Look at his
almost as many as Darth Cheney.
Yeah.
Yeah, he survived without a heart, for 14 months? Like, he had a machine pumping his heart. And someone told him, oh, by the way, your nickname is Darth Cheney. And he loved it. He laughed at it like, hey.
You don't know the power of the Cheney.
Which begs the question, if he's Darth Cheney, who's Palpatine? And not Prince Philip.
We can't go that deep, Monty.
Well, not yet.
No.
And also,
it's not time to reveal the Sith Lord.
Yeah.
The who in global media is going to be revealed as the Sith.
And for those who are taking the negative aspect of what we're talking about, just remember it's global and not galactic. So it's just a planet. That's how I boost my esteem. It's like, oh, it's so daunting. We have to fight all this stuff. It's just the planet. So there's the whole galaxy out there.
He is a bad vegetarian. Yes, I have made that quote many times on my show. Somebody is a bad vegetarian and has to learn how to be a good vegetarian. Bad vegetarians don't eat protein and end up becoming anemic. Good vegetarians get all their proteins and stick with being vegetarian and are not anemic.
Yeah, I found out my brother and his family went vegetarian, and I got it from my mum, and I said, I hope it wasn't for political reasons.
Uh-huh.
I hope it was a health thing. Because, I know vegans and they glow because, but when they eat, it's not like, oh, you just have a steak and 3 veg. They have like a banquet because they're obviously getting the protein. They have, you eat so much to get all the same stuff.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I think Bill, wasn't he featured on, there was that fabulous documentary on Netflix called Game Changers that talks about veganism and the incredible health benefits of it, goes into the whole environmental aspect and everything too. It's actually a really good doco if you've not seen it. Arnie's on there because, Arnie's vegan, Arnold Schwarzenegger. He's on there. A lot of names are, but Bill Clinton's on there because he went vegan after he had his heart attack, because veganism can actually reverse the damage done to the heart.
Right.
And so actually, eating a plant-based diet, a genuine plant-based diet, not just a vegan one. But yeah, when he was interviewed for that, which must be, I don't know when that was filmed, 10 years ago or something, I don't know, but he looked really old then. I remember thinking, you're not doing it right.
I've been watching, you watch film, like, it's amazing how certain people have aged in the last 10 years, where some people, they've gotten better, and like, are you Dorian Gray? Do you have a picture of yourself in an attic somewhere? Or like Nancy Pelosi or Maxine Waters, it's like they're turning into the predator. Like the aging. They're on Tatooine because there's twin sons. They're aging twice as fast. It is fascinating to see people where they look like that in 2012, and you look at them now, like, what the fuck happened? Now people say they lost. They can't get their adrenochrome anymore, but no.
So Mayor Lightfoot out of Canada, she looks like she's turning into Palpatine.
Whoa, Chicago.
Sorry, Chicago. Mayor Lightfoot out of Chicago. Sorry.
So she's going from Beetlejuice into Palpatine, because she does look like a bit like Beetlejuice.
Yeah, she is looking hard.
Yeah. Have you seen those memes where they show all the health ministers? And like the Dutch health minister is the size of a small a UV. Like, how the fuck? Did you see that Joe Rogan had a go at Bill Gates and just attacked his fitness? Why should we listen to this man about fitness when he's got pot belly and tits?
Why are we listening to him about health at all?
Yeah.
But to look at,
why should we listen to him at all?
Yeah. I don't trust a man that's getting into vaccines. I've experienced Windows and all those viruses.
That's right.
Right. We should disregard you just for the fact what you did to us between Windows 95 and Windows 7.
Well,
that 10 years of abuse was awful.
And his ex-wife looks like is it Kevin Kline? If Kevin Kline transitioned, have you seen the actor Kevin Kline?
Absolutely.
It's really weird. Like, in the last 10 years, they've swapped sexes, where Bill looks more female and his wife looks more male. It's really weird.
She actually did a bit of a tell-all interview a couple of days ago. The old Melinda.
Yeah, I was just going to bring that up. Yeah.
Yes, because she's trying to make another run for presidency.
Melinda Gates?
No. Clinton. Clinton. I thought you were talking about Clinton.
Oh no, he won't go away.
Gates.
Yeah. So what did?
She was just ranting. She was just saying how bad that Epstein gave her nightmares, and that there were many more affairs that Bill had.
Yeah. Well, none of that's really surprised me. I think we all knew she was pretty unhappy with that. I do like she looks a truckload happier than she has for the last 10 years. So good on her for somehow getting away. I'm not sure. He must be terrified of what she could share and unleash. But then I'm sure he's got some sort of chains on her.
Yeah, there'll be a dead man switch somewhere.
Yes. You cross this line, you die.
It's like, looking at the Ukraine, I mentioned it to either Bruce or Andrew the last couple of days. The next James Bond movie is writing itself.
Yeah, probably. Hey, listen, on the topic, just while we're back on Ukraine, something weird that I wanted to share. But a lot of people are saying donate money here. Oh, I'm doing my own raising funds. Everyone's being special about raising money. But with everyone backing out of Russia and backing out of everything, so like Apple and everyone, Spotify apparently, but it's so powerful. But everyone backing out of there, with that has come less and less ability to actually distribute any sort of funding or monies to these people. One of the best ways I've heard of, and I actually have tried it out myself just yesterday, is if you want to actually assist the actual people on the ground over there, you can rent an Airbnb. I know that sounds really weird, right? Obviously, none of us want to really be there. But I actually did this yesterday with an Airbnb where you can find your own in a particular area. $50 a night and I booked it for several nights. And the gentleman that refugees at the moment in his Airbnb properties. And so that's one of the weird ways that you can actually look if you want to contribute something and actually help out. That's one of the ways you can do it. And so in areas that we're talking areas that aren't not the big ones, it's a big country. There's a lot of rural areas and a lot of other areas that aren't major cities, but still cities that are heavily populated and are fear-driven. There are major cities that are closer to the borders that are doing amazing work, helping and housing everyone they can that are seeking refuge. So there are ways that you can still help that are weirdly more legit than probably your big, fundraising. There are some organisations I do trust. There are many, many that I don't. And so usually the bigger they are, the less I trust them. But just
the whole thing's weird though, because like when the first 2 days of there's an invasion, half the city's panicking and in the subway stations, while the other half of the city are going about their day looking at their phones. And I would guess from the general populace of the Ukraine, it's total chaos because they have no idea what's going on and they hear explosions and stuff like that. Who knows if it's, I don't think it's Russia versus Ukraine, as Andrew's pointed out. I mean, you've got separatists, you've got, all the alphabet agencies in there. I mean, the CIA have been messing about since 2014 and all that. In the last week, Condoleezza Rice has come out and said it's completely wrong that a nation goes into a democratic nation and invade. And it's like, didn't you do Iraq and Afghanistan? Well, I suppose you would know.
Yeah. And this is coming back to haunt us too, right? Is the loss of any kind of moral stature we have to comment. So my snooze button on this whole Ukraine thing is wake me up when they have an Abu Ghraib in somewhere in Kiev. Okay, that's the point I'll re-engage, and my line in the sand has been crossed for what outrageous deeds a powerful state can do to another. But it's just we can't really say anything. Now, one of the things that I do is I follow the English-speaking state-sponsored Chinese media. So I subscribe to Xinhua News, and I subscribe to China News Daily. And the North American press is not really reporting this, but China has spoken quite voraciously about this situation in the Ukraine. And they don't come right out and support what Russia is doing, but they do take every opportunity to say that whatever you do in evaluating the situation, take into account that if you're listening to the US, you're probably being lied to. That's China's basic stance on what's going on now. And by the way, they started screaming a number of months ago at the United Nations and in their own internal press when they speak to Chinese people. They're promising the Chinese people and the United Nations that the US will be brought to trial for war crimes in Iraq, Syria, and Afghanistan. And they're drumming up a bunch of countries behind that. So you have this perception of what's going on from inside the bubble, which is the Western media, and then you have what's really going on in the rest of the world. And one of the things that alarms me is the disparity between the average American's perception of what's going on, based on their consumption of media, and what's really going on. Like they're just as the two things are completely different. And if they knew what was really going on, and they should absolutely know what China thinks of this, because China could decide to do something, right?
Yeah.
So the information handling on this, and Biden's handling on this, it's just absolutely despicable. It's come to this.
Can I bring up the way that the outpouring of love and support to Ukraine, which is awesome on a base level, but Yemen, why is everyone ignoring Yemen?
Because that's not an authorized war.
Well, I thought it was
that's an unauthorized war.
I thought it was because they're not white.
Well, that too.
Now,
not to mention the king of Saudi Arabia is trying to beat him up, and we don't want to piss off the king of Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
So
would Whoopi Goldberg actually refer to the Ukrainian invasion as just white on white crime?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes.
Oh, and
then tried to say it wasn't race, it was racism or something like this. Something with racism too.
One of the hosts of The View face planted live on air. I don't know if you saw that. It's dark. No, it wasn't Whoopi. It was Joe Bayer or whatever her name is.
Joy.
One of them. Joy, yeah. I see. Thank you. But my point,
I have to look this up. If she face planted, I want to see this video.
Yeah, see, if you want a bit of Schadenfreude of laughing at someone's pain, but it's the type of she wanted to go to Italy apparently, but because of the Ukraine situation, blah blah. If you watch The View, don't. It's completely it woke them at its best basically. But yeah, she felt she was walking out and tripped on something. I think the flat ground. or whatever, but she slammed hard, and it was going out live. So
is that it? I wanted to hear the outfall as well, but okay.
Monty, can you say who that was again?
Joy Bear. Oh yeah, she face plants hard. The chair wasn't. She thought she wanted to go sit, and the chair wasn't there.
There you go. So yeah,
she deserved that shit. Yeah, that's for something nasty she said about somebody. Some ghost pulled that chair.
It's a bit of dark comedy with a hint of karma.
The best kind.
Well, the way they virtue signal on that show, and they have guests on that they don't agree with, so they stitch them up live, and you've got the audience behind the hosts and everything else like that, and they just foot and mouth disease. And the latest one was Whoopi. She was suspended for 2 weeks, and she was back in 3 days. The irony of that thing was, it's like February 1st, it's Black History Month. February 2nd, we've suspended Whoopi Goldberg, a black person.
Yeah, but suspended for.
We'll kick her out during a white holiday.
Yeah. Oh, and for Australians, cricketing people, Shane Warne passed away overnight, 52, suspected heart attack. I don't know if it's vaccine related, but he was only 5 years older than myself and Andrew, and but he was a fat athlete. He was an athlete, but he drank and he smoked, and he was a spin bowler. If you know cricket, he's not really an athlete. He was good at spinning.
Many years ago, I rehabbed his shoulder. So
yeah,
and I can tell the jerk, but he was he was one of the greatest cricketers ever, and certainly one of the most amazing bowlers ever. And his death happened in Thailand, in Koh Samui, and without a doubt, look, honestly, for sure, there's drugs and hookers involved. But
that's what I mean. It's one of those. Yeah, we don't really need to know what happened. He's dead. That's enough.
Okay,
we don't want to make up.
Okay, then.
Yeah,
He
but
did.
there's a famous in one bowl he created a new type of bowling technique called the flipper, and where he flicked his wrist or whatever else like that. I'm going to bore everyone who doesn't know cricket. However, if you watch it, you just need to watch that 10-second clip and you'll understand what I mean, because even Mike Gadding, the batter, famous English cricketer, he was walking off the field and he just shook his head because the ball was heading that way, and because of the way he spun it, when it hit the ground, it changed direction 180 degrees. It was like what would the best way of describing in baseball, Melissa? Like it's like
screwball. A screwball. It changes direction. Yeah.
Yeah, it was like, but the angle that he got, it was like we're firing a missile at Belarus and then it hits fucking Libya. It was like it's going over. No, it's there. So yeah, he's up there with one of the great cricketers. As a human being, Yeah,
he's always been. He's got a lot of colourful history behind him, but but yeah, it's interesting watching the whole country react to it though, because he was iconic in the country, wasn't he?
Well, it was like the same day or the day after that Rod Marsh passed away. He was a famous. Marsh. Yeah, he was an Australian wicketkeeper, and the last tweet that Shane put up was talking about Rod, and
who also died of a heart attack.
Yeah. That's happening a lot as well. A friend of mine's boyfriend has what's the P the heart problem with it. Yeah, he apparently has that. They've got COVID and they're fully boosted. But I didn't go conspiracy nut job. I'm so I'll just let that unfold. And
I think there's far too much evidence to know that those, particularly the mRNA vaccines, are triggering that sort of response in major organs. So there's way too many in the numbers now, especially in children. Bloody hell, I can't believe.
Melissa, Andrew, you're both healing type people. That's my comedic way of saying healers. When any time in history did you see advertising saying, "Remember, kids have heart attacks too"?
No,
that was on the side. That was on the side of a bus. They're trying to, they're trying to normalize through gaslighting that it's not everything can give you a heart attack except for these shots. Like climate change apparently is going to give you a heart attack. I've seen making the bed will give you a heart attack. Going to Thailand and having a shitload of drugs with a ladyboy, maybe not.
Yeah, there's no risk there whatsoever.
No. But that's how they're trying to normalize it. Where now, it's heart attack. It's so childish. It could be the vaccine. Shut up, you anti-vaxxer. Well,
you racist anti-vaxxer.
Yeah, you homophobic, racist anti-vaxxer. Yeah, it's even like those words now are losing their power because, like, Bruce, from your perspective with Canada, like it was anti-mandate and it was pro-choice because 90% of the truckers were jabbed. But they try to label them as Nazis, racists, science deniers, anti-vax, which as the media does.
Yeah, it was absolutely brutal what they did to those people. Now I think they regret it now because a lot of people are just sort of catching up with it. I mean, there was a brilliant moment even on Real Time with Bill Maher. I forget who the guest was. She is involved in American politics. What was the name of that woman? She's involved in A Course in Miracles.
Marianne Williams.
Marianne Williams.
Yeah. So she was on the show, and I mean, they couldn't believe that she said those things. Mm-hmm. So he's kind of off on his own. I think he tried to run with the ball, right? And at a global level, try and inch their campaign forward, and he's paying dearly for it. But Ukraine has it's amazing how quickly your memory can be wiped of things now.
Yeah.
Like
Ottawa so the irony, Trudeau was called by Biden and Biden told him to use his executive powers. He uses his executive powers, rescinds his executive powers, and the war starts.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
nothing sus
there. And now black-faced Hitler, he's known as that forever now.
Yeah, and you don't have to.
He's blackface Hitler from now on.
I love humanity because I just say 3 words: blackface Hitler, and everyone goes, Justin Castro.
Yeah, there was another big article just today, trying to debunk that he's Fidel Castro's son. and it went through an elaborate gauntlet of details that were nothing more than a distraction. And I put on the comment section on Facebook, it was a Canadian newspaper, I said, you seem to have forgotten to mention that they vacationed in the Caribbean on their honeymoon, and I forget the island, but it was like literally 30, 40 miles flying or boating to Cuba. And they went to visit a Caribbean island that they asked be left off their record. So the door is open there. But the way they write the articles, it's like you're a moron for even thinking this. And in the deepest, darkest corners of the web, there lurks this idea. And this same newspaper used to write the same sort of columns about the World Economic Forum 8-9 months ago. Now they flipped on that. They're saying, hey, look, there's something going on here. This Chrystia Freeland, the deputy prime minister in Canada, she's deeply connected to Klaus Schwab and the WEF. Who's running Canada? And of course, I didn't miss the opportunity to put in the comments of that story that, look, 10, 12 months ago, you were calling people nuts for saying this. What changed your mind? Right? So they're having a really hard time. And there's so many people now that just have to do their jobs, right? Like the police, like journalists, and it must just be soul killing for a certain percentage of them to go in and do this every day and to know that they're lying and spinning news and wreaking all this havoc in the information requirements of the public. It can't be good. I mean,
but then you have the other half who believe in that reality and they think they're doing God's work. If you watch the State of the Union address, watch it on Crowder or Tim Pool, because if you just watch it by itself, you just want to start getting sandpaper and removing your eyes. But the Democrat, I saw the inauguration of Joe Biden, and the Democratic reality is completely their own. It's not what's actually happening, but what their belief system is like, they saved America from an evil dictator, so we're going to do things worse than him. You just watch it and like, what fucking planet are you on? I mean, one episode of Bill Maher, they actually had a guy from CNN on, a newscaster, and it's making me wince and cringe and triggered. And like, who's this guy? And then they put up I can't remember his name, but from CNN. And like, oh, that makes sense. So I withdrew. But it's like, we have to defend liberal democracies. This is while Canada is going through its shit. And it's so hypocritical. It's a hypocrisy where save the Ukrainians, but anyone that disagrees with the Canadian government are Nazis and insurrectionists. Oh, it's an insurrection. No, it's a fucking revolution. You can't. I mean, they even call January 6th an insurrection. What? The police let them into the fucking building. There's so. The false flags and everything. There's so many variations of what's going on now, where it kind of doesn't make any sense at all. Like, especially in all, because it's not 1992 where there was a control over information, and that's why you're having a lot of misinformation now, because there's information overload, which is making, i.e., me, tired. That's why it's kind of hard to do a radio show to talk about current events when I'm ignoring the current events.
Yeah.
So then you must just do a show about past events.
Yeah, or talk about TV shows.
Or movies.
Yeah, a lot of movies and TV shows, and mention Doctor Who at least. Yeah. Well,
so I want to take a. Oh, go ahead.
They talk about Ukraine. It's like, can I bring up Northern Ireland because it's been 900 years?
No.
All right.
No island for you. Okay, guys, we're near the end of the show. Melissa, you want to give a way for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, look, I'm easy to find. Go to melissahockingHughes.com or qbihealing.com. Oh, there it is. Look out. Monty's put his name in. And that's where you'll find me. Send anything there. If you need to book a healing session or anything on there, there's all sorts of links that you can book it on there and book it in. If you need to actually book a session where you're speaking to me via Zoom, there are not many of those per week. So make sure you contact directly about that, as well as sending in the link or clicking the link and everything. Mention that that's what you're after, okay? They're few and far between at the moment. Schedule is tight, man. But yes, love to hear from you.
Bruce, you want to give away for people to get a hold of you?
Yeah, Amazon.com, Bruce MacDonald, MacDonald. You see, hold it up there for a sec. So the first book, that's the audio copy of it, but that's Stardust Ranch. That would be a great book to buy now. And if you enjoyed The Galactic Historian, you'll get something out of Stardust Ranch. And my co-writer, he passed on Sunday in Arizona, John Edmonds, and he was a good friend of mine and a good friend of Andrew's. And, you know, so I split the royalties with him, and so the royalties will go to his wife, and it's probably a good time to buy a copy of that book.
Yeah, and if you want to listen to me for 8 hours, I do the audiobook.
Yes.
And Monty, give away for people to get a hold of you?
I can be found on a lot of things as a Wafer Thin Entertainment. I'm on YouTube, Rumble, Odyssey, BitChute, and I'm on Spotify, but I didn't get the money. Or Monty Dean. On Twitter at Real Monty Dean, if you brave that battleground. And going as a comedian to go into Twitter because it's so much fun, as well as Instagram as Monty Dean and or Wafer Thin Entertainment.
And you all know who I am. You can go to my website, andrewbartzis.com. You can find me on Facebook and YouTube under Galactic Historian. And we look forward to you guys. We will be back this coming Thursday with another call-in show. So get your questions ready, and we'll see where we're at in a week from now. Does the Ukraine war last? Does it fade? Do the truck drivers that arrive in the United States into the DC tomorrow, do we see the CIA doing, cash grabs on the truckers? What's going to go on? Who the hell knows? Three Stooges have had an incestuous love child with Monty Python, and that's where we're at right now.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robert, take us away.
Each different bubble of reality is true.
A galactic historian is a person that looks at all the lines of dramatic karma.
Nudge, nudge.
It's the Holy Grail.
Improvise. Mysterious. It's counter psychic intelligence.
Why is DNA farming of this star cluster so important?
Because we do manifest our reality. We do create our reality.
Hello, let's create, let's co-create, and let's change this world with love. No matter if you're from Alpha Centauri or Earth, we all began with the same birthing process. We live in a limited point of view. Living the mystical life daily is about striving for the unlimited point of view. Each day, each human being gets an infinite amount of choices. Living the mystical life daily is about facing obstacles and challenges. The level of awareness that you are working at means you have a responsibility to be equal with it. How does one truly let go of expectation? You can make the moment that you wake up to the moment you go to sleep sacred. The keys to success: choice, 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 and choice.